What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk to you about Beyond Meat. I want to go over some of the data points, what moved it, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Beyond Meat had a lot of volatility, low of 277, high of 373, but it did close 20.67% in the red, kind of reversing a little bit during the after hours, up 7.04%, and then about 788 million in volume. So today was a very interesting day because Beyond Meat did put out news. So as I've mentioned over the last couple of videos, they are very aware of the price action and they are trying their very best to get a lot of retail on board and hopefully kind of incentivize some institutions to really get on board as well, because a lot of their updates that they've been giving very operational. So they did put out the date of their earnings, Walmart expansion, and then this one as well. So it looks like they're announcing availability of Beyond Burger and Beyond Beef at this place right here, Airhorn, if I'm saying that right. But nonetheless, like I've said, as much as the company is really trying their best, I don't think a lot of people are getting in because of their operations. I think they are getting in because of just it being a squeeze play. And because of all the hype it is getting the attention of more and more shorts. So for instance, you even had this individual right here. So Martin, very known individual, pharma guy, and he's been kind of shorting here and there various companies. I think he did mention Open Door at one stage. Now it looks like he did enter a short position on Beyond Meat. And so he's been really trolling a lot on social media, going after a lot of people. So I think in general, he is trying to kind of spin the narrative a little bit. So again, I think there's different mentalities with Beyond Meat. Some people like the fundamentals. Some people just like the squeeze side of it. I am more leaning towards the squeeze side of it rather than the fundamentals, but that's just me. You guys do whatever the hell floats your boat. But nonetheless, there was also a lot of hype today coming from the media. So for instance, you had Walter even posting about Beyond Meat. So this was done at 9:06. So short interest on Beyond Meat stock at nearly 109%. You had Ortex also posting this same data. And then you had, for instance, I think it was Bazinga, you had Reuters, you had a lot of big media firms all really saying that Beyond Meat is a squeeze. That is single-handedly what really drove it higher. So at the same time as well, though, you coincide Beyond Meat's news with this nice spike. It goes to show that they are helping behind the scenes. It didn't really last all that long, that spike, because of course it just went right down. But media talking about Beyond Meat being a squeeze play definitely drew a lot of money to it. When it came down to it, you also had a lot of individuals, even including myself, saying that there has been some dilution that was announced that a lot of platforms weren't really taking into account. So basically, Ortex did update their numbers pretty much last hour or so. So it does indicate 18.35% of the free float is being shorted. I did look at this earlier today, even like 2 hours ago, and it was showing still, I think at the highest, about 111% of the free flow being shorted. So they did amend it, including the new shares. So it does have now the outstanding share count being 397.61 million, whereas previously I think it was like 73, if I remember correctly. But nonetheless, today shorts did increase 1.28 million shares. And so that works out to be a grand total of 70.53 million. Short score is still relatively high. So that's sitting at 73.56. Higher the number, the higher the likelihood of a squeeze happening. So I know this might kind of pop people's mentality of having a mother of all short squeeze, only because a lot of people got very, very hyped up with seeing triple digit. So it is what it is, but as I've mentioned in previous videos, Beyond Meat did squeeze way back in 2019, 2020, and also 2021. And at that stage, the short interest was ranging from about 11 to 20%. So it is still within that range. So technically it could still squeeze. And during this kind of hype that's happened recently, shorts did not return. So again, if you're wanting a squeeze type of action, it still potentially could be on the table, but I think that you do need a lot more capital to get in. Even though today was fairly good at 700 plus million, you need like consecutive billion plus days, and then you should see a nice push higher. We have some pretty big data coming out tomorrow on a side note. So we have CPI and also Michigan consumer sentiment, so very big inflationary data points, and the S&P is putting out, so S&P Global Composite, manufacturing, and services. So potentially with all this data, you might have a very nice expansion in the broader market, potentially really hyping up even Beyond Meat and of a lot of other speculative stocks behind the scenes. Looking at the options, we did see 64 million in calls, 22 million in puts. 46% of all the options being done today were bearish in nature. Coming from a bull standpoint, you do see a consensus for it to be roughly around that, it looks like $4 range, $4 to $4.50 by the end of tomorrow. Still, if you think about it, that's a pretty good return on investment. Clearly, I don't think people are assuming a squeeze is on the table anymore, because you would be seeing a little bit higher numbers. But from a bear standpoint, you do see a consensus for it to be kind of between that 2 to 250. So again, something just to keep in mind. These are some of the transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000. So first thing, you had one big sell, 5.09. You had this one right here, 1.7 million. There was also, on a side note, a new transaction that did, or a SEC form that was submitted after hours yesterday. So when I did my video yesterday, it was right before this. And so a 13D, which did signal this right over here. So Wolverine asset did make a brand new position of 18.9 million. So I think that people have things backwards, because if you think about it, when, for instance, this 13D came out showing a institution did make a brand new position, market takes it down. Whereas you had this amended 13G, which did signal that a institution sold 20 plus million, and you had Beyond Meat going higher. So I feel like people have both of this backwards, in my opinion. But then again, what do I know in life? With tomorrow being Friday, just take note of this. So this is some of the open interest. So you do have 38,000 at that one, 23,000 at the $1.50, 28,000 at that two, 28,000 at the 250, and then 42,000 at the 3, and so forth and so forth. So potentially you might see shorts wake up a little bit just to try to ensure that most of this does expire worthless. That way you won't see any kind of push higher going into next week. With it closing at 284, it is trading between these 2 points. So this R2 and this R1. So 271 is going to be that next strong support. Kind of bounced off of that today as well as yesterday. So it is fair to assume that is a good support level. So if you're wanting to dollar cost average, swing trade, just kind of watch for that. Then 312 followed by 380 is going to be the next strong target / resistance points. On the actual chart itself, today it did close between that, it looks like that 100 and also 200-day moving averages. So kind of smack dab in the middle there. Couple key points to watch for though is going to be that 50-day moving average. So for a lot of big momentum plays, that is kind of the pivot point, and that is sitting at 235. Aside from that, you can kind of see a lot of the big names really putting out articles saying that technically Beyond Meat's a squeeze play. So you did have Bazinga, Reuters, those were some of the popular ones for today, but a lot of articles really talking about how technically Beyond Meat is a squeeze. So let me know your viewpoint on that. There wasn't any new analyst ratings on the side note. So the last one did come out on the 13th. That was from TD Cowen, just reiterating their sell rating and 80-cent price target. So let me know your thoughts on Beyond Meat. Do you realistically think that a squeeze play is still on the table? And are any of you investing based on the actual fundamentals of the company, or are you just here for it being a squeeze play? So let me know your viewpoint on all of that. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.